of Podcasts Radio Network proudly presents the Broadcasters Podcast. Here is the king of podcasts.
And for those of you that are looking forward to Barbie and Oppenheimer this weekend, like I am, great movie weekend, but I'm not going to talk too much about that at all. The strike is still here, and as long as this is going on, I'm going to stay on this. It won't be the whole focus of tonight's program, but I can't help but talk about it because it covers so much. Now, it's not immediate effect for consumers like you and me. When we're watching television or watching movies, everything is status quo. All the movies are coming out like they're supposed to be coming out. TV's in the summer slump. It's lull right now, so any new shows that are coming out, cable will have a couple new series and all. Streaming will have some new series here and there. So things are just the way it is. Networks, cable networks, and others, they're all going to get affected. And for others, they're going to find other things to watch. Because remember, there's a bunch of things that happen here that have to be considered for as long as the actors and the writers stay on strike. So Comic-Con is already getting affected now in San Diego. You're already starting to hear movies rumbling that they're going to go ahead and be moved back during the Christmas time. They're going to move them the next year. Another move. We don't need that for movies right now. But we'll talk about that too. But the one story that comes across everything else that I see right now is social media influencers. See, the eyeballs, in some cases, are going to go to social media. Remember, it wasn't that long ago I did a report where there was a survey that came out talking about how on younger consumers that they were watching more TikTok than they were TV. And that's a problem. Now, I'll even say this for myself. I really don't watch much TV on a TV screen anyway. I watch it on my phone. I'm not even that really caught up to even go and put it on a tablet to watch. I'm fine watching on a 6-inch screen. A lot of content. All the YouTube videos, all the TikTok videos. Everything I'm watching from, watching wrestling shows and pay-per-views on Peacock and all the cable networks like either USA, TBS, or TNT. I do. And then I look at what I watch on Twitter. Maybe I'll catch something on Facebook. Reading. I have other things that will occupy my mind watching. So there's part of it that's being said that the quality of some of the content that's out there, TV and movies that we get on streaming during the pandemic, we know that once people were just getting more accustomed to stay at home and stay entertained at home, the home video experience, they didn't have to go out to go ahead and pick up a DVD or a VHS like we used to get everything at home at one shot, and now encouraged to do it during the pandemic. Well, that has a habit that has not gone away. People are really enjoying that they could just go ahead and completely stay at home. And I think about the fact that, okay, I don't want to do that. For me, I like going to the movies on Friday nights. I'm going Friday and Saturday night this week. And then when it comes to going out, if I want to go grab some dinner, grab some food, I like going out. And I do like going to a restaurant and sitting down because I know the food's going to be fresh and hot and I got to have it right when it is. And not necessarily take it when it's going home unless it's something that's made for takeout. But people are so accustomed now to go and just stay home and just take the least common denominator of entertainment that they can on streaming, because it is. I know my family Netflix is about to get cut off. We're going to probably put on Disney Plus Hulu package and go with that and see if it does any better. But for the most part, there are not a lot of big movie actors that really command like a Tom Cruise or a Margot Robbie or directors like a Christopher Nolan or a Steven Spielberg that really could command and get something out there that people are going to go out of their way to go and watch in a movie theater, continue to watch, maybe buy after it goes on demand, whatever there might be. But all that requires money, and all that requires actors. See, the other thing that has to be considered, we're hearing all this now, and this is not good for Hollywood. How many actors are being told or talking out there of people we've seen on television for years? And they've all said on TikTok all weekend long, they're not making any money. They're not making enough money. Now, granted, there are those that are going to say, well, you know, you're in Hollywood, you're supposed to get all these certain things. Well, yeah, but you know what? To live and breathe and work in Hollywood, it still costs a lot of damn money. Let's not forget how much the managers or the agents of a high-price actor or actress gets, or how much it is to go ahead and pay to live and operate there, because they have to live the lifestyle. It's not like the studios are giving them some kind of a stipend. You have to live rich, act rich, even if you're not. Like there's a whole, it's like here in Miami, where I'm not that far from Palm Beach, where it's status seeking, clout chasing. And even if you're not into it, you have to be into it, because that's what you need to show, is you need to show presence. You're a star in Hollywood. But a star in Hollywood doesn't mean the same thing as it used to be, because they're not making the kind of money that stars made. Not right now anyway. Because how many movie stars do you see now that constantly get movie work? Constantly have scripts in their hand, constantly are getting said, hey, here's your next movie, here's your next place. Remember, all these people now, writers, actors, they might have talent representation, but they're not getting that packaging they used to get. Remember that whole deal after the Writers Guild got them to quash it and sunset it? We talked about it last week. Well, now the writers have control. And the actors, unfortunately, that packaging probably helped them a lot. Because then what you did was, you know, the packaging of the talent agencies, if I want to play devil's advocate here, it did help out, because you're saying, well, here's this actor, this director, we're going to put them together, and you're going to get this great movie or this great TV show. So the agencies were kind of doing something for them, but they were not paying enough of the percentage that they were getting off those deals to the talent. The talent keeps getting screwed over. And at this time, there are not enough stars out there. And if the deal doesn't go right for Hollywood, there won't be any stars. But now there's an outcry, another side to this, that's very concerning and disturbing. Part of it is there are now outlets that are actually encouraging AI, that Hollywood should embrace it and not resist. What? And that's for the actors, as they are now on the picket lines trying to go ahead and get their careers, their industry to stay open, to get it back up again. And the studios are they're being ignorant right now. They're being stubborn. And this is a stubbornness that's going to last a little while, based on what we were hearing from what Dominic Patton and the Deadline said last week too. The actors are not helping from this. And the studios, they don't care. They can find somebody else to go and help promote movies that have already been put in the can, already been promoted, already been marketed, already been put out. Okay, so they don't have somebody on the red carpet. But we're seeing a couple of people out there that are not part of Hollywood. Maybe a little delusional. But these social media influencers are willing to go ahead and take the place. But what they don't realize, and what a lot of actors are saying out there is, yeah, you might not be part of the union, but you're scabbing. And scabbing in terms of you are crossing picket lines, you are working with the studios, struck companies, because you'll take the money anyway. But you're going to take that quick money, but then after this, when the actors get back in the deals and the unions and the writers get their agreements in order, then those influencers are up shit creek. They're out. They will not get work. If that's what they care about, just getting the quick money, they'll get publicity from it, because that's the other part. Some of the people that are doing this influencing, they're getting publicity for it, and they don't care if they're the bad person. They don't care if they're the villain here in this tale. As we know, there is always publicity that can be bad publicity, and there are certain people that can thrive off of livid bad publicity, and will still get the same kind of paparazzi treatment as everybody else. But Hollywood needs to go through this now. And in the meantime, there are repercussions for all this. And there's nothing else that can be said about it. So we look at what's going on here. There's a lot going on. The next domino is about the drop. So how about Broadway? Yes, Broadway is looking right now for a strike authorization vote for theater workers on the pink contract. So now, to reiterate what IATSE is, it's the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees. So Broadway is looking now to strike. That's the next part that comes up. Now, they don't work with the AMPTP. They work with the Broadway League and Disney Theatrical Productions. But their negotiations right now, the union has stalled. So again, all these studios that have power and all the people that are able to bring all this great talent and all this great content to life, they're all buckling right now. They're all they're tying themselves down. They're going to sit in the foxhole. They're going to just fight along and try to wear out their adversaries, in this case of the strike. So we get to this now. Contract negotiations and strike authorization vote concerning stagehands, hair and makeup artists, and wardrobe personnel are covered under a so-called pink contract. 1,500 workers are directly covered by the agreement, working on 45 theatrical shows, 28 productions on Broadway, 17 on tour. So New York, Broadway can get shut down. Now, voting has already started, and if the members vote the authorized contract agreement is not reached, workers under the pink contract could strike as soon as Friday morning. So another union alongside the Writers Guild, the Screen Actors Guild, they're all going to sit in on this. It doesn't matter. I mean, it's just a time where unions are all picketing right now. I mean, well, UPS is also on this too. Like, it's what's going on. So they have to get 75% of the union to go ahead and say yes to getting the strike, then move forward with strike authorization. Previous contract was July 2019 up to July 2nd, 2023. But members have been working under previous terms for as long as the products were productive. But now that the talks have stopped, they could go ahead and also pick up picket signs. Spokesman for the Broadway League, Trade Association for Producers and General Managers, said the league has no comment at this time. So it's all happening. There are other unions as well that don't get the kind of press. There's Actors Equity, the touring contract of the Broadway League, the bus and truck touring agreement was also part of this deal, which the Actors Equity deals with. So when they're going on the road to perform Broadway acts at various other locations outside of Broadway, there's also this to go and work on. So much is happening right now, and this is just another domino falling. So let's go into what is being affected right now. Influencers are now in play. And there's some issues about this. So let's go and talk about that. Now, there are a couple different ways to look at it. So let's go and take this first. I'm going from whatstrending.com to talk about this. So digital creators are put in a unique position. Madison Goldberg writes about this and talks about now that actors and writers are speaking out on social media regarding their motivations to go on strike. Fran Drescher, the president of SAG-AFTRA, made the public announcement during the union strike, and a lot of actors have shared their thoughts along the picket line. Social media has had a different response to it. So there's a newfound social media awareness surrounding the joint strike and raising important conversations within digital creators and influencers. Countless content creators from TikTok and YouTube have made their way into the entertainment industry. Addison Rae, Quinta Brunson are two great examples. But now with the strike, studios grapple with finding new ways to fill roles in an attempt to skirt their demands. So yeah, they're going to find some back roads. They're going to find some notable names to position and create a red carpet. So they'll still find people that are famous, but they will not be people that will be related to the content they're actually presenting. So SAG-AFTRA did issue a list of frequently asked questions to influencers potentially seeking membership. And one of the major things was, quote, any non-member seeking future membership in SAG-AFTRA who performs covered work or services for a struck company during the strike will not be admitted into membership. They're going to remember this. And so influencers and content creators are sharing content about why it's important not to fall into the studios amid the strike, not to fall into their hands to do something with them, to work. Many of the pool of non-union workers that while these opportunities are still tempting, they will ultimately sold their chances of probably breaking into the industry. As for me, I'm a journalist. I've always been a journalist. This program is basically, I am commentary, news and commentary about the media industry in general. And I have talked about movies and I've talked about television many times, but I don't necessarily give reviews on it. But I still support movies. I still support television. I still support media as much as I can. Like, I spend my hard-earned dollars. Listen, I go every Friday, Saturday night. If I do, if there are opening night movies I want to go see, I go see them. I will pay for them. And I will support the theaters and buy concessions, and I will go sit in there and go have a good old time. Same thing when it comes to watching sports, going to get getting tickets for sporting events, or same thing going for buying streaming services. Right now I have Amazon and Peacock. And collectively I also use Netflix, and I also have, all the other stuff from cable, right? So a lot has been talked about this. And in addition to full stop and filming projects, SAG-AFTRA and WGA members will not be speaking to the press regarding their projects. So influencers commenting on pop culture on a freelance basis are now evaluating their own topics to cover outside of the guidance of traditional news. So creators continue to warn influencers to avoid this at all costs to prevent their actions from being seen as scabbing. Now, I don't have anything that I'm doing that'll be regarding that, so I'm not worried about it. But my thing is that I am talking about the strike because it's important. This is the cusp of the digital disruption that I talk about on this program since day one, some 286 episodes ago. When I started this program, I talked about the digital disruption and what it was doing to traditional mainstream media and how we don't have a crossover anymore, where we had certain things that would come in, cross over into the mainstream and become something new and different. That doesn't happen now because there's so much control, deregulation, so much that's being allowed by all these big media companies. Now, I don't want to go ahead and take what the actors, some of the very established actors are doing. Well, they want to go after the CEOs and say, oh, you're making all this money. Yeah, that's true. You're right about that. But the CEOs are just figureheads in comparison to who is the real leadership is in all these companies. Sure, Bob Iger talking shit, saying, strikers' demands being unrealistic and disturbing. But, he's the front guy. Sure, he's probably integral in certain deals that are being going on where they might be selling off certain properties, but still, all these companies have shareholders and other people that are controlling and managing and manipulating everything in all these companies. They're all worried about what they have to do to placate to other people. And the actors and the writers, they just don't want to worry about it. They're basically saying to themselves, well, this is the wrong time for this to happen. They don't want to worry about this. They would just much prefer that the actors and writers just ask for their pay bump like good little kids and be done with it. And let's just move along with the day. But they have to have the fight about AI. They have to have the fight about streaming residuals. They have to. So it's not to go and attack the individual CEOs. I'm not giving a shit about David Zaslav or Bob Iger or Ted Sarandos. I don't care. It's the companies. It's the companies that are the ones that really need to get the attack. It's all of them. All of them that make all these major decisions for all these companies where we're seeing a lot of feature films and a lot of projects that are just going into the shitter. They're just not good. And there are certain actors that don't get the work, certain writers that don't get the work. And there's not enough quality out there. There's such a lot of disposable content across every medium right now. This is radio, music, movies, television. which is the crux of this program and what I talk about on a regular basis. And when I see this, it's disturbing and unrealistic to think that this can just continue when there's a lot of good people that are talented and are very erudite and actually can act and they can actually do a lot of things. Listen, there's a lot of people that can come in and do some great work in Hollywood. There used to be a chance where you could have that happen. Now, I hope this does create a time for independent films, because independent films need to get a comeback. And I hope that the exhibitioners, the AMCs, the Regals, the Cinemarks of the world will take upon once this is going on. One of the things I remember with 2020 and 2021 is that there were a number of independent films I wanted to go see that it interested me, because I was saying to myself, well, you know what? Maybe there's some good movies out there I can go and catch that will actually catch my eye. Because remember, when all those movies were going away and we were looking for movies to watch in 2020, 2021, if I look at annual box office on those couple of years, I was looking at the numbers for the box office. And remember, sure, the money's way down. They're not getting $2 trillion like they did in 2020. Well, actually, that's total. That's to me, that's 2019. I meant. $11 billion they got at that time. There we go. And over a billion tickets sold. That's what I meant for 2019. Okay. When you look at the movies that they had, sure, there are also major movies out there, but you also had some other ones that were just across the board that were very interesting, that really stood out. Because there's going to be independent movies that come out and we get a chance to see them. I'm not going to go through and try to start naming off movies that I liked and that were really good. But if some of these actors and actresses, if they're going to be left out for a significant amount of time and they can't do any union work, then do something non-union. If they can get some independent work, writers and all of them, do it. Do it if you can. And maybe somebody can go out there and do some crowdfunded campaigns or something to get some things off the ground. Whatever it has to be. Because what has to happen is there's going to be some room for some other content to come out there. There's going to be some chance to cross over because of the ineptness. The ineptness of these Hollywood studios. For all these big major media conglomerates. They got to be too big, too fat, too bloated, and they have all this going on. They pivoted towards streaming 3 years ago, and now they're stuck, and they're not making the kind of movie that they did, not making the kind of movie the money they used to. They're not making that kind of money. They went to streaming. They thought subscribers were going to cover. Advertising is not making enough. It's still not making enough for them. And then they abandoned, in some part, movies, cutting down their exclusivity windows for television. Let's just put it on streaming. Don't worry about networks. We're just giving up on them. You could have curbed some of that, but they don't want to do that. I don't want to care about that. And so with that, social media influencers are going to try to take a spot here with existing content and see what happens. So now, at Comic-Con, well, let's first talk about Straw Hat Goofy. Okay, listen. If you were on TikTok anytime in the last weekend, since last weekend, let me tell you, you heard about this guy. Now, I know about Straw Hat Goofy because I've seen his content before. I actually followed him for a little bit. And honestly, when I started listening to some of his commentary, I started realizing, oh, you know what? I didn't follow him. I just got a lot of his videos. But I started realizing, okay, this guy's a shill. And there are certain things he talks about where he is just under the thumb of the studios. And I know why he is, because look, I see him now as opposed to the movie critic that he was on the movie preview programming that comes up on Regal and AMC theaters and others. And I forget which movie he was talking about that he was around for, but also I see him and Perry's Picks and some others, and Noovie, Noovie. I see sometimes, I get to the movies early, and I'm sitting there with popcorn and candy and a big, large Pepsi Zero Sugar. And I'm sitting there and I'll see some people that are going on and doing their thing on there, just, complete shilling or whatever. That's fine. Maria Menounos, she's still great to look at, and she's nice and she's likable. And I see Straw Hat Goofy was on, and I forget, I think it was Spider-Man No Way Home. That's right, because they showed him in 3 different characters. Like Spider-Man was in the movie, right? It was around that time. And then he's gone. But listen, he's made a name for himself. He's gotten to do some interviews and all, and he's gotten a chance to get a little taste of Hollywood. And because he has that, he is close enough to the fringe to where Hollywood studios could say, you know what, let's go ahead and get him. We can't get our normal people to go and do this. Let's just get one of these social media guys to do it. And that's what they did. So there's 2 examples of scabbing, or attempted scabbing, and they were called out for it. So here is the deal with Straw Hat Goofy. So Juju Green, and he's on TikTok, was a movie commentator, and he did a breakdown for Avengers Endgame that got viral, and then started getting millions of subscribers. He was starting to get swept up as prime promotional material for Marvel, Sony, Disney, Universal Pictures, invited to red carpet events, and interviewed on the red carpet everyone from Zendaya to Tom Cruise. But then what happens is Straw Hat played both halves of a 2-part skit, and he asked himself questions on how he would manage his upcoming appearances. And then he answered his questions. Well, could it have just been another skit turned into swaths of the internet against him due to his callous and self-serving views on an issue that affects thousands of workers? And he claims that he isn't a part of the union. And let me just play the video. Let's go and listen to what he says. I'll go ahead and play it out for you, and we'll let it go ahead and play out. That's fine. I'll go ahead and play this out. You go and find out for yourselves. Here we go.
And writers of Hollywood are officially on strike together, which I think is the first time in 60 years that this has happened. I couldn't be happier. I think this is finally a chance for them to get better wages and better working conditions, which, as we know in Hollywood, gets pretty weird. Now, when the SAG strike was made official yesterday, I unfortunately could not make a video about it because I was actually at the Oppenheimer premiere that those actors walked out of. Plus, the time zone difference is like 8 hours, so I really gotta pay attention to when I post or the videos won't do that well. But personally, being known as the movie guy in the entertainment industry by most of you and by TikTok, I think it's time that we talk about how does this affect my job and the content that's going to be made during the strike. First up, let's talk about this. What exactly is my job? Because of TikTok and my platform, I've been able to quit my former job and create my own job called The Movie Guy. For a long time, this just meant that I just created content surrounding movies, like breakdowns, reviews, top 10 lists. Because the platform grew, that allowed me to get other jobs that allowed me to add hosts. And
he's still going along and talking about it, but still, it doesn't take away the fact that what he did was piss off a lot of people. And maybe that's not a good idea. Here's more.
Is very little. The reason for that is because I am not an actor, nor am I a writer, which means my job does not overlap with those that the writers and actors can't do during the strike. Now, I did have my first ever movie role with Ruby Gillman Teenage Kraken, but I only had one line and I'm still not a part of SAG. It was a fun cameo. When it comes to the strike, I still will be creating content based off of movie reviews, breakdowns, top 10 lists, things like that.
But the thing is that I think he's probably already burned the bridge. Just by doing what he did, just pissed people off. Bad taste. Look, but he's taking the money. And you know what? He can be that bad guy and people will still probably follow him for content. But if he doesn't care that he burned the bridge with Hollywood, he doesn't give a shit. So he got his chance to go out there and be noticed. And you know what? It's more for his own ego if he wants to go and just stroke it and say, okay, well, look, I'm still this guy. I'm more important than everybody else. Like, I'll still have a room for someplace. So he pulled the original video, tried to explain himself, but the damage was already done. And there were members of the union that were quick to respond, emphasizing exactly how his comments were wrong, chastising him for cashing in on the strikes, ignoring the reason for the strike. And content creators like Straw Hat will be the A-list go-tos when any of those who just take that money are, without a doubt, strike breakers, or more commonly called scabs. And that's how it actually is. Since we got this covered to talk about it, and they're not wrong about it. It's a mistake. Made a mistake. That's what happened. And a lot of people talked about it. So he made a mistake. He made a big mistake, and that's going to hurt. Somebody else doing the same thing, right? The other person in social media that also got chastised and really got taken aback for what she did was there was a deleted TikTok where influencer Andrea Gogan posted a video showing off her look she was wearing to the Haunted Mansion premiere at Disneyland. And she used a clip of The Nanny where Fran Drescher is showing off her look to a less than enthusiastic Maxwell. And many were quick to criticize Gogan for attending the premiere as it was considered crossing the picket line. And also using the audio clip she chose for the video, which is another thing that's like crazy to see. But we got to look at this part too. I'll bring it up. Like, this is like, oh boy. I mean, there's a lot. Well, we won't play the part, but like, it's just another mistake that was being done. But this influencer not only went ahead and did the premiere of Haunted Mansion, but also took a hit on Fran Drescher. What are you doing? That's just telling you just don't care. But okay. But that's another issue that was made a mistake by. So another young lady getting caught up on this and also just screwing up the chance of a career. And that's just not good. So now let's talk about Comic-Con. The Actors Guild has instructed unionized influencers to not engage in any panels or cosplay of struck work from Hollywood studios. So that's going on this weekend right now. The new rules are uncharted territory for Hollywood labor. SAG-AFTRA member influencers are still permitted to promote brand deals and continue to fulfill contractual obligations to promote struck film and TV projects from Hollywood studios if the contract was agreed prior to the start of the strike. But right now, influencers cannot participate in conversations and cannot participate in Comic-Con on behalf of to promote companies we are striking against, appearances, panels, fan meet and greets, and anything involving struck work. So right now, there are certain characters that do a cosplay right now for movies like Barbie, Blue Beetle, or The Boys. Right now, it's off limits. But for like a video game like The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is permitted. So there's some clarifications that have to be figured out. And then the other thing that's been like a slap in the face of the actors and actresses was there was a scheduled Disneyland premiere of Haunted Mansion, which we're talking about Andrea Gogan. Along with her, when they didn't have actors or actresses like Danny DeVito and Tiffany Haddish that star in the movie to appear on the red carpet, they got theme park performers dressed as classic Disney villains, and Fox and the Television Academy are now about to postpone the Primetime Emmy Awards slated for September in the coming weeks. So that's all that's going on right now for all of that. It's just sad. Now, one thing we'll take from the strike that came up during Comic-Con, Kevin Smith, the director, actually talked about it. He was on stage at the Masters of the Universe Revolution panel, and he mentioned that he was there for Netflix and Mattel's Masters of the Universe Revolution, and he said the panel is different than what originally planned, but the actors are doing what they need to do for their union. Let's give it up for unions. We hope that they crush their overlords like Netflix. So he said it. Like, I mean, wow. He put out there and actually talked about it. Let's take the real quick clip about Kevin Smith saying it.
Their union stuff. Let's give it up for them. We hope that they crush their overlords like Netflix.
There we go. So that's what he said. And that was one thing that was made as a highlight from Comic-Con. But now here's the other part. We talked about certain movies and certain TV shows that are going to be moved around. Right now we're hearing that Yellowstone is now going to be featured on CBS on Sunday nights, in place of what they had originally planned for television. So there's that going on. Plus there's other things that are going on. What Magnum PI is now is being moved up for NBC to run at its time, to run in the fall lineup. They're going to move it up earlier because it was run in the spring. So they're going to have to bring it back in the fall because they already had the rest of their episodes ready to go of their final season. But now we have movies coming up later this year that could get pushed off again. So here's what we got. Warner Brothers is strongly considering pushing Dune 2 out of November 3rd, and that's according to individuals with knowledge of discussions told Variety. The film's a co-production with Legendary Entertainment, and both parties have to agree on a new release date. Legendary has yet to be approached by WB about the move, they added. And that releases are moving forward as originally planned. No formal discussions have been had, but the rumors are starting off right now. Warner Brothers is also assessing potential new dates for The Color Purple, the remake, which counts Oprah Winfrey as a producer, and the same thing for DC Studios sequel Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, which already got pushed twice. They'll push it again. And the shuffling now continues because of the strikes. Warner's going to be looking ahead, is indicating that the studio is not confident that either guild strike will be resolved by the middle of the fall. Right now, Color Purple and Aquaman are slated for December 20th and December 25th, respectively. One thing for Color Purple is that that's going to be a movie that's going to be considered most likely for an Academy Award nomination, or an Academy Award in general, for various reasons. And there are other movies that are also being rumored to be moved. That's Hunger Games, The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. Columbia Pictures is looking to take the Apple Studios film Napoleon to theaters November 22nd. But there are some rumors about how that can move. So we don't know what can all happen from all those. Now, with some comments that have been made from SAG-AFTRA about what's been said by the AMPT members, instead of getting to the negotiating table or trying to get back to doing a deal, you're just hearing a lot of comments. We talked about what was being heard about, bleeding all these writers dry until they just have to take a bad deal. So Ross Lincoln at The Wrap talks about this and says that studios, quote, didn't meaningfully engage on critical issues, and the studios called the guild disingenuous. So there was a memo sent to members SAG-AFTRA on Monday night. Authenticity was confirmed by The Wrap, and leaders said that things got to the point because of a strike because AMPTP negotiators from day one would not meaningfully engage in the most critical issues. They intentionally dragged their feet and subjected to repeated stonewalling and delays. But in this case, I get why the studios are going to do that. It's not a surprise. AMPTP called SAG-AFTRA's work disingenuous at best in terms of the negotiations, and it continues to mischaracterize negotiations. And the AMPTP also said that the offers described in the SAG-AFTRA memo were outdated, that the proposals offered verbally to the guild on the final day of negotiations before the strike were more current. And the memo included a comprehensive breakdown of guild proposals and counteroffers made by the AMPTP. So let's go ahead and go through them real quick. There was first an 11% general wage increase first year, 4% for second and third years, and 5% in the first year. Well, there was also some things to deal with inflation as well. Revenue sharing on streaming services to offset residuals losses that was flatly rejected by the AMPTP. A proposal to make terms for background actors the same everywhere was rejected by AMPTP. A proposal to compensate background actors who stand in work on the same day for both jobs instead of paying them for one was rejected. And the AMPTP agreed to provide hair and makeup specialists trained for diverse hair types and skin tones, but only for principal performers. Really, SAG-AFTRA is not going to get their deal with AMPTP right now because, according to what they're saying, the things that are very important to them right now, along with the money, is rejected. No coming to any kind of an impasse yet. AMPTP has already said we're offering $1 billion in wage increases, pension and health contributions, and residual increases, and includes first of their kind protections over the three-year term, including expressly with respect to AI. It did not refute SAG-AFTRA's description of AI-related proposals in specific terms. The thing is, the AI thing is still going to be a long ways apart. Residuals a long ways apart. And of course, the AMPTP offering $1 billion in wage increases, pension, and health. Yeah. That's what they would get them anyway. That's like the easy part. Okay, we're at the deal, the agreement. Let's just give them this. We don't give a shit about everything else. That's what they're saying to them. But it's just not that way. Can't be that way either. So that's all the talk on the strike. We're now going to move into some other subjects. There are some things I got to cover in real quick, so we're going to do that. Variety and their intelligence platform actually put out an interesting slideshow about how podcasts and audiobooks are attracting ears, crossing opportunities in film, TV, and music. Take this real quick. Well, I was going to get to see some of it, but I guess not. Spoken word has found its voice, they're saying, where they're making a point that the percentage of Americans spend listening to music out of total time with audio content is up from 80 to 71%. And that spoken word audio, which includes AM, FM radio, podcasts, and audiobooks, has grown by 45%, from 20% of total listening hours to 29% in 2022. So when people want to listen to something, there might be a little more conducive to listen to audiobooks or podcasts before music. Well, part of the reason is that how much good music is out there that might not be disposable. Because if new music was much more quality and just got a better, really had a better way of promoting and marketing itself, and it had some legs, then I think music would still matter more. But it's not right now. No, in the meantime, we're having other things that are going on that are just making changes all across the board. Well, anyway, VIP and Variety gave me a paywall, so I can't go into that anymore. Quick thing about the movies. Thought I'd make this point. AMC theaters are going to drop their plan to charge more money based on seat location. So they're going to keep general admission like it was before. They're going to go back to that. That's a smart move, because trying to do anything else was just really stupid anyway. So there we go. Now, this is a story that really got my eye, and I'm like, wow. I forgot I need to mention this here. AI. Man, there's so much radio stuff I wanted to bring up too. I'm going to have time to get it done in an hour. I guess maybe I'll just go a little bit over. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But here's a story from Wired.com. They talk about, to save itself, Hollywood must build its own ChatGPT. Use AI to do movies and TV what it did to news and music, but not too late to resist. That's going to be interesting. So they go through the whole description to build up to their point. Studios perceive the generative AI as a tool they can use against writers. Some kinds of programming can be formulaic. Award shows, sitcoms, for example. In theory, a well-constructed generative AI can provide a first draft of such a script. But studio executives have gone one step further, imagining products like ChatGPT could transfer the writing process for everything, from award shows to feature films, as a potential cost savings and a way to convert script writing from copyrightable work to work for hire. Now, this writer that wrote this article has experience working in Hollywood, consulting on the Silicon Valley series for HBO, involvement in documentaries like The Facebook Dilemma, The Social Dilemma, and The Great Hack. As studios are smart, this writer says, they will understand that their interests are aligned with those of writers, directors, and all creative people. Silicon Valley is coming for their profit margin. So what they're missing is Silicon Valley plans to use AI to do to Hollywood what it did to news and music. The bait and switch tactics follow a pattern which they call enshittification. Social media platforms offer benefits to users until they're hooked. Then they enshittify the product to appeal to advertisers. Once advertisers are on board, platforms enshittify their audience as well as that of the users to extract maximum value. So that's the plan that's being used for Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, and TikTok. And now they're extending it outside of social media. As big tech always does, they baited the trap with short-term benefits and increased investment in programming, emerging in a form of golden age of high-quality limited-run series. Streaming caused an explosion in the number of the shows, but each show had fewer episodes, and writers were employed for 8 to 10 weeks at a time. And then streaming undercut television syndication, which has been a big source of income for writers. And streaming side benefits have eroded rapidly over the past 2 years as studios have entered a streaming market, saturating consumer demand and forcing all involved to cut costs. So generative AI is the potential kill shot. So I get the story now. Beat Silicon Valley to the chase. Because Silicon Valley they are the arbiters of the digital disruption. That's where Napster came from. That's where all these other places that came in that have disrupted music. Well, maybe not so much Spotify, but like there are others, Apple and Pandora and all these others, right? When it comes to generative AI and video, Silicon Valley only needs to hook one constituency, Hollywood executives. If the studios buy in, they will be at the mercy of the purveyors of that technology. That's what happened to journalism, and it happened to music. That Silicon Valley didn't kill those industries, gained control of the audience instead, extracted a huge percentage of potential profits, and for studio executives, generative AI is an intelligence test. So there's 4 realities for the best path forward that studios and writers need to acknowledge. First, generative AI will eventually be a valuable tool in some time for some creative realms, including script writing, but only if the AI has been built from the ground up for that task. And then the flaws of today's generative AIs make them unsuitable for serious work. But they will never be as good at creating draft scripts, even in the most formulaic programming, unless their training set includes a large library of Hollywood scripts. And third, Silicon Valley is the common enemy of studios and writers. It's an illusion that studios can partner with AI companies to squeeze writers without being harmed themselves. But Silicon Valley is using a potential reduction in writer compensation as the bait in the trap where the target is studio profits. And fourth, no reason Hollywood can't create its own generative AI to compete with ChatGPT. Studios and writers can control the intellectual property to make a great AI. As trained on every script contributed by a single studio or collection of studios would produce wildly better scripts than ChatGPT. Would it produce the next Casablanca? No. But it could produce an excellent first draft of an Emmy Award show script, safeguard the business model of Hollywood for the next generation. So, purposes for it. But they just can't, but again, Hollywood studios are not looking to they want to get as much cost cutting as possible. They're corporations. They're going to do that. So they can find a way to cut costs all across the board and still put out content that is going to be mass produced and mass bought, and they make money off of advertising and everything else and subscriptions and more, then they'll do that. And merchandise, they'll do that. So there's a variety how AI will augment human creativity in film production. I'll skip on that. That's okay. Another story I was going to bring up was the summertime R-rated comedies. I already talked about was various movies we had now this year that R-rated comedies are coming back. I watched Joyride. I hated it. It wasn't great. For them to try to compare it to Bridesmaids, it was a joke. It was watchable. It was a watchable comedy that wasn't funny, just like About My Father, and just like The Machine. Just saying. I'm giving these comedies a try. The only movie that got my attention was No Hard Feelings. And now I didn't watch The Blackening. And somebody could tell me, hey, that was good. All right. I'm just not in the horror movies. That's why I didn't watch it. So don't get me too hard on that. Let's go into music and let's go into the radio real quick. We're going to just quick hit some of these stories. A story from okplayer.com talks about now that rappers and rap producers are selling their catalogs. So they're talking about Dr. Dre, Nelly, Future, Manny Fresh, RZA, and others are selling their catalogs for high prices. So an increasing number of new rap songs feature interpolations. And that right now, one of the big companies in the song catalog market, we talked about this before, by the way, Primary Wave, Natalie Nataskin, it's Chief Content Officer for Primary Wave, says she has a whole team devoted to speaking with AR people, managers, artists about interpolating songs her company owns into current tracks. And they've already gotten some rework old tunes owned by Primary Wave in the tracks by Doja Cat, Young Gravy, and even Lada's smash hit Big Energy. But that's what we got right now. That's the other reason that's going on. But there's reasons why they're selling the catalogs. One was COVID. Second, more buyers than there ever before, driving prices up. And then for older artists who are thinking about their estate. And fourth, after death, inevitably comes taxes. So those are the main reasons that's actually happening now as well. So a couple more things I want to wrap up with tonight, which just concern me a lot. Audience trends right now inside radio has a monthly analysis of the Nielsen's PPM cross market average quarter hour data trends. And at the moment, they're talking about how classic hits now is very popular and news talk is steadily losing listeners. So classic hits, throwbacks, that's what you got on radio. They're just going to take the older audience and live with it. And the replacements of what is on news talk right now, with all the layoffs and various programming being changed with other people taking the roles of some other AM radio hosts, they're not doing as well. There are a lot of changes going on. Let's just say this, for radio, it's the loss of Rush Limbaugh that a lot of AM radio stations have not overcome. That's just how it is. An amazing stat from Luminate. They put out a mid-year report, and they said in the first 6 months of 2023, there have been a 20% increase in new uploads. 112,000 tracks are uploaded to streaming services daily. Let me say that again. 112,000 new tracks, new songs, uploaded to streaming services every day. That is wild. And that's to Spotify and Apple Music. I don't have to go to the paywall to read the rest of that. That just says something a lot to me right there. Now, we talked before about TikTok trying to help out music artists. They have a new program that aims to identify rising artists in the music industry. So they're going to try to be tastemakers. Yes, let's do that. Let's go. Let's do this. So TikTok revealed they're signing a licensing deal with Warner Music Group. A new program called Elevate, meant to help musicians create a lifelong career in the music industry beyond being a one-hit wonder. And there's no details on how they're selecting their artists for the program, but they said they're looking at signed and unsigned talent to build a roster of artists that span across the globe and many genres of music. Listen, MTV, VH1, remember VH1 artists you want to know? They used to do all the time, right? MTV would always have their own select artists they wanted to make sure they promoted and pushed. You know, with all these certain artists you'd see on Saturday Night Live that somehow would get really popular and viral after that. We had tastemakers out there. We used to have people that are at radio shows used to do it all the time, but they don't do that now. There's a great TikTok I watched over the weekend that talked about Shaggy's It Wasn't Me. When it was a song that was added to the album because the record label, MCA Records, needed to have a single. And they hated the song. And then Shaggy was feeling like he was going to be under threat of losing, of the label dropping him because of, previous albums not performing well. So this was like a make or break moment. And then a station in Honolulu, Hawaii plays It Wasn't Me. Song goes viral there. And then he's hearing it and then Shaggy's hearing it on tour when he performs it, and the crowds are going wild to it, singing along with the song. And then it became a number one hit. Just saying. And resurrected Shaggy's career, because then he had Angel after that, and then he had everything else after that. He was doing great. Now, the program's going to run exclusive performances Elevate here from each artist in their hometowns and locations that inspired their music. And TikTok told TechCrunch.com in an email that the concert will be intimate for friends, fans, and family, and filmed as part of the original content series available on TikTok so fans around the world can watch the performances. Great. That's good. And that's the show. A little under an hour, that's okay. I got through everything I wanted to do. Well, I'll take one more story from Fred Jenkins before I wrap up. So he talks about, is the nighttime the right time? So most broadcasters have given up on nighttime programming. Years ago, it became evident to sales management that most advertisers simply aren't interested in the traditional 7 p.m. to midnight day part. These 5 hours are a key statistical component in the 6 a.m. to midnight standard ratings scorecard. But many programmers have simply considered that they're nearly 30% of the day in order to save money. So you get some out-of-town voice to host a nighttime format, no engagement, no calls, no interaction. Shows sound pedestrian and undynamic. And other stations do even less. Segueing songs, dropping repetitive production, positioners, IDs in between. More and more listeners getting what's going on when a radio station is an autopilot during overnights, and sometimes the weekends. When radio puts so little into these large expanses of time, why should an audience react with anything more than boredom and ambivalence? And so there was a story they were talking about also in this article. In the age of Spotify, can a song grow on us again? And there was a discussion about how great albums where you can listen from side one, cut one all the way through and hear nothing but great songs. And Dave Mason talked to Fred Jacobs about this. He's a 50-year radio veteran, worked in most formats, and worked quite a while at KRTH, K-Earth 101 in Los Angeles, and spent the last many years fundraising for KPBS, the San Diego PBS station. Radio listeners of a certain age would not be hard-pressed to name a night jock that you enjoyed listening to, or even inspired them and made enjoy their musical tastes. And great talent got the chance to make their personalities come alive during the nighttime hours on both AM and FM stations. True. We had a lot of that kind of stuff, but it's just not there anymore for whatever reason. It's a shame. So anyway, I thought it was a good story to bring up as well. But again, it's a lost cause, as we already know. That's the show for tonight. We're going to leave it there. Thanks for listening in, as you always do. If you haven't done so, make sure to go ahead and subscribe to the show, Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And also, please make sure to rate and review. Find the show on YouTube. It's also out there for you as well. You can go ahead and catch all the episodes at broadcasterspodcast.com. And like I said, when you go to Apple or Spotify, make sure to rate and review. That'll be really great. We're going to continue to follow the writer's strike for as long as it is going on. We'll see what continues on and happens with it. Otherwise, enjoy Oppenheimer and Barbie like I'm going to do this weekend. Have a great time in the movies if you're going. And until next week, remember that content is king, and the control of your content is in your hands.